Shema Israel, Yahweh Hinu Yahweh Kad, Veptoy Yahweh Kula Veka Kuna Shaka Kuma Deka. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our Elohim, Yahweh is one, and you shall love Yahweh with thy heart, with all being, and with thy strength.
All right, Shabbat Shalom. All right. Well, with all the events that are happening in the news lately, and the studies that we're doing in Revelation, I wanted to do a study on some of the issues that we're going to more than likely be facing in the times to come. Namely, who or what will be the end-time adversaries for Yahweh's people? What are some of the prophecies that could point to the nations that will be warring against Yahweh's people? Now, I have to place some caution upon this because there are differing ideas of where the people will come from. Some believe that it is only the Roman Catholic Church that will be the end times beast. Some believe that it will be Islam. And still others believe that it will consist of a combination of these two forces, the Roman Catholic Church and Islam. Now, I'm also going to caution that this is an extremely high-level view of this topic. We're going to get into some verses that could probably deserve a sermon of their own because of the intricacies that are contained within them. So do be aware, this is a very, very top-level view of this subject. So let's see where the scriptures lead us in this discussion. And for the people who got notes, I do have to apologize because there is some of the message is lost in translation because some of the pictures got moved around as we converted it over through email. But if you have the Islamic Beast, isn't that the title of it, D? Or is it the Roman and Islamic Beast by Norman Willis? It has the same pictures in it. But you can very easily do a search on the internet. If you will look up pictures for the name of Allah, it will bring up all of these images and you can see them. So let's go to Revelation 13:11. Revelation 13:11. And I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he does great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth before men. And he leads astray those dwelling on the earth because of those signs which he was given to do before the beast, saying to those dwelling on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword, yet lived. And there was given to him to give spirit to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause to be killed as many as would not worship the image of the beast. And he causes all, both small and great, and rich and poor, and free and slave, to be given a mark upon their right hand and upon their foreheads. And that no one should be able to buy or sell except that he has the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is the wisdom. He who has understanding, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And it also has a footnote that some manuscripts have 616 versus 666. So on the pages, the first one that I have is actually a dark image of the name of Allah in Arabic. I'm not fluent in Arabic, but this is what comes up when you search for this image. And it's pretty universal that this is the symbol. The one that's probably top on your sheets is just a small black and white photo that says Codex Vaticanus, AD 350. Now, when you look at these two images, they probably look pretty close to being superimposed on top of each other. part that was actually cut off from yours is an overlay of these two, explaining what these two look like. If you look at the Codex Vaticanus, the very first symbol, if you count numbers, then that one would be 600, the next symbol would be 60, and then the next would be 6. But if you look at it in Arabic, it's two crossed swords, which is on almost universally any Islamic flag you see. The next one is Allah, and then the very last symbol is in the name of. So looking at it from that vantage point, that could actually be the symbolism for the name of Allah and not 666. But now, full disclosure about the number 666, there are some people who say if you look at the numerology and you actually add up the numbers of one of the Pope's titles, which is Vicaris Filii Dei, which means in place of the deity's son, that you can come up with this number 666. Me personally, I don't come to that conclusion just because it's based on gematria. And if you look at the history of gematria, it comes from the Kabbalah and it comes from Jewish mysticism, which for me personally, that's not where I would look for answers according to Yahweh's word. Does that mean that this doesn't represent the Pope? I'm not saying that, because it very well could. But me personally, based on what you see here and what you look at here, the plain understanding of it is the name of Allah. And so that's why I say there's a lot of confusion around this issue, because it could very well count for both of them. It could count for one of them, or it could count for the other. I tend to believe that the curse that we're going to start seeing is actually Islam. And we'll go through the study some more, and we'll see why I believe it's leading more towards Islam than a combination of the two. So let's go to Daniel 9:11. Daniel 9:11. And all Yisrael have transgressed your Torah and turned aside so as not to obey your voice. So the curse and the oath written in the Torah of Moshe, the servant of Elohim, have been poured out on us, for we have sinned against him. The word for curse here is Hebrew 0423, which is Allah. It means curse, cursing, execration, oath, or swearing. Now, Allah is the name that Islamic people use to call on their mighty one. Who in here can tell me how many times the word coincidence appears in the Hebrew scripture? Lou and Dee say 0, which is correct. There are no coincidences in Scripture. So for the same Islamic deity to have the name Allah and Allah to mean a curse gives an indication of who he really is. Now, this is also the same word for what happens to a woman who commits adultery in Numbers 5. If you remember, they take some dust from the floor of the tabernacle, they put it in water, and they have the woman drink it. And if she has committed adultery, her belly swells and her thigh shrinks. That is the curse for adultery. This is also the word used to describe what Yahweh does to the people of Israel who do not obey his word. It's mentioned in Numbers and in Deuteronomy. And it's also talked about here in Daniel. And I see this curse, I see this Allah. I see that this alludes back to what Yahweh has done in the past. By using a nation that does not follow Yahweh to punish a nation that should. Israel was supposed to follow Yahweh. What was the example of a nation coming against Israel and being lifted up against them? It's King Nebuchadnezzar. And he was told that he was bringing judgment upon Israel because of their lack of discipline, their lack of trust, their lack of doing Torah. So let's go here to Daniel 2:1. Daniel 2:1. Daniel 2:1. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was so troubled that his sleep left him. And the sovereign gave orders to call the magicians and the astrologers and the practicers of witchcraft and the Chaldeans to declare to the sovereign his dreams. So they came and stood before the sovereign, and the sovereign said to them, I have had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. And the Chaldeans spoke to the sovereign in Aramaic, O sovereign, live forever. Relate the dream to your servants, and we shall reveal the interpretation. The sovereign answered and said to the Chaldeans, my decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream and its interpretation to me, your limbs shall be taken from you, and your houses made dunghills. But if you reveal the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive gifts and rewards and great esteem from me. So reveal to me the dream and its interpretation. And they answered again and said, let the sovereign relate to his servants the dream, and we shall reveal its interpretation. The sovereign answered and said, I know for certain that you would gain time because you see that my decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me, there is only one decree for you. For you have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the time has changed. So relate the dream to me, then I shall know that you shall reveal its interpretation for me. The Chaldeans answered the sovereign and said, there is no one on earth who is able to reveal the matter of the sovereign, because no sovereign, master, or ruler has ever asked a matter like this of any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And the matter that the sovereign is asking is too difficult, and there is no other who is able to reveal it to the sovereign except the Elohim, whose dwelling is not with flesh. Because of this, the sovereign was enraged and very wroth, and gave orders to destroy all the wise ones of Babel. So the decree went out, and they began killing the wise ones, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. Then with counsel and wisdom, Daniel answered Arioch, the chief of the sovereign's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise ones of Babel. And he answered and said to Arioch, the sovereign's officer, why is the decree from the sovereign so urgent? So Arioch made the decision known to Daniel. And Daniel went in and asked the sovereign to give him time, and he would show the sovereign the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, to seek compassion from the Elah of the heavens concerning the secret, so that Daniel and his companions should not perish with the rest of the wise ones of Babel. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision, and Daniel blessed the Elah of the heavens. Daniel responded and said, blessed be the name of Elah forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removes sovereigns and raises up sovereigns. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who possess understanding. He reveals deep and secret matters. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank you and praise you, O Elah of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and might, and have made known to me what we asked of you. For you have made known to us the sovereign's matters. So Daniel went to Arioch, whom the sovereign had appointed to destroy the wise ones of Babel. He went and said this to him, do not destroy the wise ones of Babel. Bring me in before the sovereign, and I shall show the interpretation to the sovereign. Then Arioch brought Daniel in a hurry before the sovereign and said thus to them, I have found a man among the sons of the exiles of Yehudah, who does make known to the sovereign the interpretation. The sovereign answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation? Daniel answered before the sovereign and said, the secret which the sovereign is asking, the wise one, the astrologers, the magicians, and the diviners are unable to show it to the sovereign. But there is an Elah in the heavens who reveals secrets, and he has made known to sovereign Nebuchadnezzar what is to be in the latter days. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed are these. As for you, O sovereign, on your bed your thoughts came up, what is going to take place after this? And he who reveals secrets has made known to you what shall be after this. As for me, this secret has not been revealed to me because I have more wisdom than anyone living, but for our sakes who make known the interpretation to the sovereign, and that you should know the thoughts of your heart. O sovereign, we're looking on and saw a great image. This great image and its brightness, excellent, was standing before you, and its form was awesome. The image head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You were looking on until a stone was cut out without hands, and it smote the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, and the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floor. And the wind took them away so that no trace of them was found, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled all the earth. This is the dream and its interpretation we declare before the sovereign. You, O sovereign, are a sovereign of sovereigns. For the Allah of heavens has given you a reign, power, and strength and preciousness. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field and the birds of the heavens, he has given them into your hand and has made you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold. And after you rises up another reign lower than yours, and another third reign of bronze that rules over all the earth. And the fourth reign is as strong as iron, because iron crushes and shatters all. So like iron that breaks in pieces, it crushes and breaks all these. Yet as you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the reign is to be divided. But some of the strength of the iron is to be in it, because you saw the iron mixed with muddy clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the reign is partly strong and partly brittle. And as you saw iron mixed with muddy clay, they are mixing themselves with the seed of men, but they are not clinging to each other, even as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these sovereigns, the Allah of heaven shall set up a reign which shall never be destroyed, nor the reign pass on to other people. It crushes and puts to an end all these reigns, and it shall stand forever. Because you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it crushed the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great Allah has made known to the sovereign what shall be after this, and the dream is true, and its interpretation trustworthy. Then sovereign Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face and did obeisance before Daniel, and gave orders to present to him an offering and incense. The sovereign answered Daniel and said, truly your Elah is the Elah of Elohim, the master of sovereigns and the revealer of secrets, since you were able to reveal this secret. Then the sovereign made Daniel great and gave him many great gifts, and made him rule over all the province of Babel, and the chief of the nobles over all the wise ones of Babel. And Daniel asked the sovereign, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the work of the province of Babel, and Daniel in the gate of the sovereign. So here we have a lot of information on what is coming. And that's exactly what this interpretation was, and this dream was a vision of historical events that were coming in the shape of a man. Now, almost universally, there's agreement on these first three pieces of this man. We know straight away that the head of gold was Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar. The chest and arms of silver is almost universally agreed to be Persia. The kingdom that came after Persia, being a belly and thigh of bronze, were the Greeks. The legs of iron is where we start to get into a little bit of contention. Some will claim that this is the Roman Empire, or that this could possibly be Islam and the Ottoman Empire. I kind of go back and forth. At first, I think it's Rome, because the Roman Empire, if you look back on the Roman Empire, started in around 46 BCE. And depending on which kingdom of the Roman Empire you look at, one fell in about 428, which is the Eastern Kingdom. The Western Kingdom didn't fall until about 1428, somewhere in there. So think of that. A 1,400-year reign for the Roman Empire is a long and lasting empire. Now, if you think it's Islam and the Ottoman Empire, they only existed for roughly, 700 years? But if you take out the whole Roman Empire, then they only ruled for about 400 years. So that's where you kind of run into some confusion. And the Roman Empire ruled a lot of territory, but the Ottoman Empire ruled just as much. So I think it might be a little bit of a mixture with the legs of iron. I think maybe that it was the Roman Empire for the legs of iron. Then I think when you get to the feet of iron and clay, there's some that claim that it's an Islamic Roman joining of forces because it would be partly together and partly not. I think it's more than likely Islam as these feet of iron and clay. Because if you look at Islam, even though they follow pretty much the same books, they're strong and they're brittle at the same time. And this actually describes Islam today. You have two different factions in Islam. You have the Sunnis and Shias mainly. And they can't get along. They're the ones in the Islamic territories that fight against each other. They're constantly fighting amongst themselves for who are actually better Muslims. There's also a theory that represents this relationship, like I said, as either Catholicism and Islam together. And that's because there is theories that say that Islam is a product of Rome and the Pope. They say that the Pope sent women to Muhammad that were Catholic to influence him to get rid of the Jews in the Holy Land. Now, for me personally, I lean more towards the thought that these feet are all Islamic because of the strife within their Islamic culture. And me personally now, I don't think that the Muslim people would ever form an alliance with the Pope. They view any other religion with disdain and disgust. So if Islam did come out of the Roman Church, then I think that it has become something that they can no longer contain. I think they started it and maybe thought they could control it. But once again, the beast that they created is going to be their master. Let's go to Revelation 17:1. Revelation 17:1. And one of the seven messengers who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying to me, "Come, I shall show you the judgment of the great whore sitting on many waters, with whom the sovereigns of the earth committed whoring, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her whoring." And he carried me away in spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, covered with the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup filled with the abominations of the filthiness of her whoring. And upon her forehead a name written, a secret, Babel the Great, the mother of whores and of the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the set-apart ones and with the blood of the witness of Yahshua. And having seen her, I marveled, greatly marveled. And the messenger said to me, why did you marvel? Let me explain to you the secret of the woman and of the beast who rides, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The beast that you saw was and is not, and is about to come up out of the pit of the deep and goes to destruction. And those dwelling on the earth whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world shall marvel when they see the beast that was and is not and yet is. Here is the mind having wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, and there are 7 sovereigns. 5 have fallen, and 1 is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he has to remain a little while. And the beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and goes to destruction. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 sovereigns who have not yet received a reign, but receive authority as sovereigns with the beast for 1 hour. They have one mind, and they shall give their power and authority to the beast. They shall fight with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is master of masters and sovereign of sovereigns, and those with him are called and chosen and trustworthy. Now, some will claim that this beast on the 7 hills is Rome, that there are 7 mountains surrounding Rome. But there's also 7 mountains surrounding Mecca. A beast that was the Ottoman Empire. A beast that is not is the Ottoman Empire. And a beast that will be, I think, is the Ottoman Empire, which was mainly based out of Turkey. The Ottoman Empire existed from 1299 to 1922. There's currently a push in the Muslim world to reestablish the caliphate in Turkey today. Now, if we take the thoughts of what we talked about just a minute ago, that the legs were of iron and crushed, what supplanted the legs of iron in the end? The feet of iron and the feet of clay. So partly strong, partly brittle, which I think is the Muslim nations. What nation ended Roman rule in around 1430? I think is somewhere around there. The Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire supplanted Rome. They ended the rule of the Western Kingdom or Western Empire of Rome. So it would fit if those legs of iron were there. They ruled for a very long time, but were supplanted by the Ottoman Empire. And then if you think about it, how Muslims are rising today, they're partly strong, partly brittle. And if they're here when Messiah comes, they will be the final one to be destroyed. But they have supplanted every other reign that has come upon them. So let's go to Ezekiel 38. We're going to start out in Ezekiel 38 in verse 1. Ezekiel 38, 1. All right, Ezekiel 38, 1. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Now, I've done a sermon on this verse before, so just as a refresher, Gog is a sovereign of Magog. Who in here can remember what Rosh means? Head. So if you look at this, instead of Rosh being a proper noun, take Rosh as just a noun. The prince or the head prince. So Gog, the head prince of Magog, of Meshech and Tubal. And you shall say, thus says the Master Yahweh, see, I am against you, O Gog, the prince, the head of Meshech and Tubal. And I shall turn you around, and I shall put hooks into your jaws, and shall lead you out with all your army, horses and horsemen clad perfectly. A great assembly with armor and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Cush, and Put are with them, all of them with the shield and the helmet. Gomer and all its bands, the house of Togarmah, from the far north, and all its bands, many peoples with you. Be prepared, prepare yourself, you and all your assemblies that are assembled unto you, and you shall be on guard for them. After many days you shall be called up. In the latter years you shall come into the land of those brought back from the sword and gathered from many people on the mountains of Israel, which had been a continual waste. But they were brought out of the Gentiles, and all of them shall dwell safely. And you shall go coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your bands and many peoples with you. Thus says the Master Yahweh, and it shall be in the days that words arise in your heart, and you shall devise an evil plan. And you shall say, let me go up against a land of unwalled villages. Let me go to those at rest who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the Gentiles, acquiring livestock and goods, who dwell in the middle of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, and all their young lions shall say to you, have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to bear away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to take away plunder? Therefore, you son of man, prophesy, and you shall say to Gog, thus says the Master Yahweh, in that day when my people Israel dwell safely, would you not know? And you shall come from your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great assembly and a mighty army. And you shall come up against my people Israel like a cloud to cover the land. In the latter days it shall be, and I shall bring you against my land, in order that the Gentiles know me, when I am set apart in you, O Gog, before their eyes. Thus says the Master Yahweh, are you the one I spoke of in former days by my servants the prophets of Israel, who prophesied for years in those days to bring you against them? And it shall be on that day, when Gog comes against the land of Israel, declares the Master Yahweh, that my wrath shall come up in my face, for in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. On that day there shall be great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field and all creeping creatures that creep on the earth and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall fall to the ground. And I shall call for a sword against Gog on my mountains, declares the Master Yahweh, the sword of each one being against his brother. And I shall judge him with pestilence and with blood, and rain down flooding rain, and hailstones, fire, and sulfur on him and on his bands, and on the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself and set myself apart, and I shall be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. So for those of you who get on our studies of Revelation, this sounds very much like the end times battle. Has all Israel been called back from the Gentiles yet? No. Has a great army of this size come against Israel yet? No. But we've read about this battle. We know that it's coming. So who are these people? Who are these nations that will be coming against Israel? if you go back and do some search on this and look back and see where these names come from, Magog is a portion of Turkey that's just north of Israel, but south of Russia. Meshach and Tubal, once again, are Turkey. They're southern Russia and northern Iran. Persia is Iran. Cush is actually more along the northern border of Egypt. This isn't talking about the Cush of Ethiopia, which is something we've discussed in Torah based on Moses' wife, who was a Cushite, who was also a Midianite. It kind of points to a more northerly territory than the Ethiopia of today that people say is Cush. Put is Libya, possibly including Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. Gomer has been equated with Cappadocia, which is central Turkey. Togarmah is the southeastern part of Turkey near Syria. So almost universally, every one of the nations that is coming against Israel is a Muslim nation. That's why I think those feet that are partly of iron, partly of clay, is Islam. They're two groups that fight against each other. So throughout the scriptures, the land that Scripture is always concerned with is Israel and its surrounding territories. The enemies of Israel are actually starting to raise their heads once again. Will it be Islam? Will it be the Roman Church? Or a combination of both? That's something that we're going to have to watch for in the near future. At this point in time, me personally, I lean more towards the Islamic Empire being the main enemy of Israel based on their recent actions. The Catholic Church seems to be being pushed into obscurity by Islam. Islam has the weapons to bring forth war, and they have the stomach to kill for what they believe in. Islam also has birth rates on their side right now. They are the only group, they are the only religion that has a positive birth rate to sustain themselves. If you look at birth rates, every other country has a birth rate that cannot sustain its population. They consider it negative birth rates. But every Muslim family has upwards of 10 children. That can sustain them. That can give them the numbers to overcome. And then if you look at religions worldwide, almost universally in every one you look at, the only religion that is growing is Islam. And we discussed this on our studies. If you're not going to submit to Islam, they're going to kill you. They'll take your money for a while, but when you can't pay the money, then that's the end. So now, do I say this with all certainty and say that this is the exact way that all of these events are going to happen? No. Do I say with some level of certainty that I think this is probably strongly going to be what happens? I say yes. But everything that we've just read about can change. The events of the world can change. And as we get closer to the end, we have to pray that Yahweh will continue to open our eyes and reveal to us the truth in His Scriptures. Although looking at the Scriptures we've looked at today, I think the message is becoming pretty plain and pretty clear at what we're going to be up against in these end times. So once again, like I said, this is a very top-level view. It's a lot of information that's very much on the top. But like I said, almost universally, each of these chapters we read today can be a sermon in and of itself with how much information is in there. So may Yahweh continue to let us study this. May he continue to let us open our eyes and see the end times coming upon us. But may Yahweh also make his face to shine upon us, and may Yahweh give us his peace.